Hey, hello, welcome. So I'm just here reacting to the new Genesis cards. There's a G Guardian and a Stride. A few very interesting cards they revealed, both of which are dragon themed as well. I couldn't quite find out though what mythology it's based on when I googled it up, so that's something I guess to learn about. If anyone does know though, please let me know. But yeah, to start with, we've got this G Guardian, which is very interesting. So what it does is when it's placed on Guardian Circle, you can put a card from your hand or rear guard into your soul, and it gains 10,000 shield until end of battle, which is very similar to Applewood Cider, which has the put a card from hand to soul, gain 10k shield. But then it's also got another ability where you can put a total of 2 cards from your hand or your rear guards into your soul. So you put an additional 2, that means you're basically going to end up getting rid of 3 additional cards. And what you do is you choose one of your opponent's units and it gets critical -2 until end of turn. So you're basically dropping 4 cards when your opponent attacks. You're going to guard the attack that is coming at you, and then you're also going to be taking away 2 crits from another unit. So in a way, you're already guarding 2 attacks with this card by dropping 4 cards. But then to make it even better is that the critical -2 lasts until end of turn. So you're potentially guarding actually more than just 2 attacks. So there are some attack patterns that you can disrupt with this. It's really well designed in the sense that they made it require more negging, although I shouldn't really say discard because it involves the field as well, so in a way that can sort of be easy for some decks depending on what you're playing. Obviously if you're playing Regalia, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to lose my Seal Yggdrasil, I don't want to lose my Norns, so maybe you might want to use your hand, possibly. There are some combos that you can use this with, like for example you can soul charge Ackley's or maybe the old Norn, and then you can give your Vanguard 5k power if you soul blast with Ratrum or something. You can do some interesting things like that, or you can just set up some Regalia soul for next turn. Obviously I'm mainly talking about Regalia here because Regalia is like the only real version of Genesis at the moment that's being played right now in Premium. So it's a very interesting card, and it's going to help with countering a whole bunch of decks, which I will get to soon. But first I wanted to quickly cover this Stride, which is Offering Souls Heavenly Dragon Jagdagna Lurga. Again, another dragon. I don't know what the mythology is based on here, but very nice style. And also very fun skill. I really like it. When this unit attacks, it's once per turn. You can turn a G unit face up. You choose any number of cards with different grades from your drop zone, and you put them into your soul. So it's a bit similar to like one of those G guards, like the Regalia G guard, where you can put cards with different grades into your soul. And it gets 10k until end of turn. So just remember it is until end of turn, so if you're using Regalia, Norn boosting, you can restand this and it still maintains that 10k, but it is once per turn, so you can't stack it twice, like with something like Gleipnir Taro or Gleipnir Yatagarasu. This is only a one time only, but it's good because if your opponent's not using Perfect Guards and you're using restand in Regalia, you could you're basically baiting them to use 2 PGs if they are worried about their damage. Otherwise, if they don't, then they're risking having to drop more Guardians. Obviously, it depends how much Soul you have, because Soul isn't always that easy to rack up depending on what build you're playing. But to go on even further, is that the on attack basically almost guarantees in a way that you're not going to vanilla Stride, because sometimes in Genesis you run into a problem where you Stride, but you don't have, say, Counterblast resources to use Amaruda, or you don't have the deck size to use Amaruda. But then the other options you have are Soul Blast costs. So this is quite good because it's free, no Counterblast cost, and it gives you Soul. It doesn't require you Soul Blasting initially, which really does help quite a bit. And then the other skill, when your opponent's unit is placed on Guardian Circle other than from deck. So the reason why it says other than from deck is because it's trying to prevent like a loop scenario. Well, loop, but it's not really infinite. It's more like spam. But basically, they're trying to stop you from spamming this skill too much. So what it does is when any guardian is placed at any point during the battle phase, of course. So it's not just for his own battle; it's for any attack. You can retire that unit, and then your opponent looks at the top card of the deck and calls it to Guardian Circle. So just bear in mind, it's retiring. It's not nullifying any effects. So if they're using a Sentinel, it's still perfect guarded. But any sort of shield value that's being built, you can just get rid of it as long as you have the soul to pay. You can keep on doing it for every card that they bring out. Now, this is to a lot of people somewhat underwhelming I'm somewhat glad it is though, because it does give hope that this card will get unbanned one day, and I think that's good if they keep it that way, because to be fair, this card, this restriction is problematic right now. There's way too much Regalia representation, way too little of everything else. So I'm hoping maybe they do something like, for example, choice restrict it with maybe these three cards, because clearly Infinite Loop isn't the thing that people care as much about, because if not, then they would have done something about this loop with Gelja and cards like Reedy, for example, because this card does the same thing as Tara actually. If you're trying to go for infinite power, you can use it with this. So there is some hope that they maybe consider other restrictions. There's a lot of better ideas out there. I do think it's just because they didn't understand the clan enough. But this is obviously the turbo card that does a lot of soul charging fast, and this is the one that makes it so easy to restand, because a lot of the other stuff is more complicated. So as long as we stick to the tame strides, then there's always hope for Taro to come back. And now I want to talk about this combo, which is Dionysus of Beautiful Brew. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen this card before. It's sort of a very easy to pass card from back in the day. So Infinity Deity Cradle, when it attacks, discard one grade 3 or greater from your hand. So yeah, you can discard Valkyrian if you have that as well. Until the end of battle, it gets 5k, which is a nice little bonus. And when your opponent would call from hand to guard, he or she must call 2 or more at the same time. So it's basically a battle door. And that's obviously really good, because the reason why it's not that popular is because firstly the cost, and also the fact that there's only one battle. It's not like Morfessa, where Morfessa lasts the whole turn. So obviously Morfessa is more appealing, Chain Rank is more appealing, Crystal Lust is more appealing. A one-off attack that has a cost of discarding a card from your hand isn't generally that appealing. But if you combined it with this card, it's so disruptive, because what you're doing is that every time your opponent's guarding with 2 cards at the same time, they're trying to make the sum off to guard against it. But then what you're going to do is you're going to smash that Guardian, and then you're forced them to randomly call another card. And if the shield value doesn't equal, then you're basically forced them to keep on dropping another set of 2 every time. So they're going to keep on doing that until they have enough shield, which means you're actually potentially going to make them neg more cards from hand with this card. So it's a very interesting little combo. I haven't tried it myself yet. I might try it out at some point, but I really love this. I think it's cool. And obviously playing that and that together, well, they're not going to synergize that well anyway if this got unbanned, because you have to discard a grade 3 or greater from your hand anyway. So this is very resource reliant, and it's going to be relying more on the individual attack. So even if you could restand this with an unbanned Taro one day, it's too much setup, I think. So it's kind of future-proof there for that return. So very, very cool card. And I now want to talk about this G Guardian more, because there is a lot over here. Firstly, if we just go further in, let's talk about Dagda. So you know how the Loire pattern goes with Morfessa. Usually what happens is you have a rear guard that attacks, and then you have Dagda that attacks. So what you do is, you could do one of two things. You can either just guard that first one, reduce Dagda's crit, because we know that Dagda is going to be attacking twice, or you can do it vice versa. But I'd say go for the first attack. Basically you guard it, hopefully. Hopefully the number's good enough. You need 25k guard with the G Guard. So what you do is you guard against that unit with your G Guardian. Hopefully you don't have to drop extra cards via Battle Door. Maybe consider keeping Quick Shield in your hand when you go second, in case. But what you do is you have that G Guard, stop the attack, then you lose the other 2 cards to then make Dagda zero critical. Dagda would then swing for 0 crit if he wants to, but maybe he won't because there's no point. So in that case you still got Dagda. Morfessa then attacks, PG or whatever. Then they get the stand trigger. Well, they'll stand the unit that you guarded against. But then they're not really making use of Dagda, because then, well, Dagda's still 0 crit. So they might just swing with that grade 1 again anyway. So they've now done 3 attacks to have the extra crits. And then they might do Dagda after. But the point is now they haven't had the chance to use Dagda twice, which is a massive nerf. So at the moment we've got a card called Veratrum, which also counters Dagda, because you can retire Dagda before they attack with it, because you can use Veratrum on the first attack. But obviously Veratrum's problem is it's a counterblast 1 cost. And that counterblast 1 cost is very easy to play around if you've been using your counterblast resources too much. So it's not quite as reliable, but this new G-Guard is definitely more reliable, and it's easier to trigger. So Dagda's one of the cards that you can counter. Another thing that we've got is Nightmare Doll Leslie. So I think this is definitely a very appealing one, because I know how much people are finding this card really annoying, especially with the over trigger. But what you can do is you can do a -2 critical to this card, so you can make Leslie useless. Obviously it's not that good against Ginny and Alice combos, because they'll just keep on coming out with every counterblast and they're refreshing their crits, but anything that restands like Nightmare Doll Leslie will become ineffective, so every swing they're getting with that card doesn't really do anything. So you can play around it because of that. And the good thing is, unlike Veratrum, who specifically targets standing units, therefore making it easier to play around if the opponent knows what they're doing, this G-Guardian works on any unit. So if you saw like 2 Leslies, for example, you could hold onto that G-Guardian, and then once they do their drive checks and they pass their crits, then you can just punish them in the place where it hurts the most, because you're not forced into that linear decision path. So Leslie's really good for that reason to go after. So effect against Nightmare Dolls, I think Genesis now has it's kind of okay right now against Nightmare Dolls, but now I think it's going to have like a very heavy advantage matchup with this card. So it's definitely good and more. I don't know if like you need to hit Nightmare Dolls, to be honest, because I do feel like there's going to be more and more stuff that's just going to keep it at bay anyway, but I don't know. I haven't really thought about it too much, and to be honest, I'm just the kind of player who prefers to just focus on countering stuff. I'm not really the kind who focuses on ban this, ban that, ban that. I'd rather just play around stuff, and well, this is one way I can do it out of the handful out there. Another card is Crown Tiger. So Great Nature, restanding rear guards, similar card to, well, the Leslie combos, Tara combos, whatever, like a rear guard that basically facilitates multi-attacks. Kind of makes you less reliant on the stride in a way because of that, which is pretty cool, because it means you're able to diversify your stride options, which makes the game fun. So Crown Tiger can restand rear guards, which is really enjoyable. And what it can do is that basically when you've got that attacking unit, you can keep swinging over and over. You can stack your crits from your drive checks onto it. Even Monogama could provide more drive checks to potentially give more crits. So because it can reuse that target, obviously the G-Guard is good against that, because you minus the crits away as well. Obviously Crown Tiger is not the only rear guard that can restand a rear guard. There are other cards as well, like Tusk Mammoth I think it was, and there was that Big Belly Grade 3, which is more commonly played I think. Then there's Skull Dragon, so very relevant card to mention, because you'll have combos like, for example, Skull Dragon, sorry, not Skull Dragon, what's his name, Nightstorm. So you might potentially go against a Nightstorm, or you might go against Night Rose, who's attacking right now after a bad bounty. And what you might do is, they'll call Skull Dragon, and then you just G-Guard, obviously guard normally against the Night Rose or something, or the Nightstorm, but then you can reduce Skull Dragon's crit. So now you're not forced to require a Perfect Guard in your hand, or a Veratrum, because Veratrum's also a counter against Skull Dragon. You're not forced to require either one of those 2 cards, because now the G-Guard is also an option now, because you can just use it to guard like normal against one attack, but then also render another Skull Dragon useless by getting rid of 2 cards that were always going to be useless guard anyway against Skull Dragon. So very effective against Grand Blue as well. This G-Guard is so nuts. And then we've got Momo, Sully Witch Momo. So one of the popular cheesy restand plays where they just risk it all, use that Magical Kaliko, sack those Amaterasu's that they might still have in their deck if they haven't drawn into them already, and then just swing for like heavier crits and try to kill them on first stride. Obviously this G-Guard is very effective against that, because now you've basically made it so that they've just wasted their hand and they're not going to kill you for sure. So really, really punishing. Momo's just so risky, and this just adds to the risk. So Time to start embracing Dragon Spinning King number now. Then we've got Mizukaze, who can't prevent G-Guardians, so you can use the G-Guards to really mess with this card if they try to guard restrict you. You can also make use of all those other cards that they're not letting you guard with, so that's 2 attacks dealt with that Mizukaze can't stop. So very nice against Nubatama. Linka. So Linka can pretty much just kill people. One shot, heavy crit, X-Gallop, multi-attack, smash PGs, except they can't smash G-Guardians, so just minus the crits from the X-Gallop and then just try and survive that and you might be fine. Besides, I don't think they even play heavy crits, so you're probably going to live even if you no guard a 200 gazillion whatever power Vanguard that they have. Although they do play the Brandt Gate over triggers, so that is kind of scary. But yeah, counters Linka, which is pretty useful because it's not Sentinel. Dual Knight Salome. So Dual Knights, the way they like to attack is they like to do rear guards first. So what you can do is you can guard against a rear guard first, and then you can reduce the crits of Salome or Crystal Luster Dragon, who's inheriting Salome's ability. So that way you can then start tanking the strides and you don't have to put all the energy into guarding that massive attack twice. So effective against Dual Knights as well. And then we've got Dragonic Overlord the Cross, or you can really put in any restand for that matter, like Dumjid for example. Anything that's a force to restand, very nice to use against. The Cross will definitely get hurt by that G-Guardian. And it pretty much just makes the whole turn useless because they're relying so much on a triple restander. At the moment, there's not really that many counters against restanding Vanguards, but this G-Guardian that they made for Genesis works against this card, so it's really helpful for that reason. So if they want to gamble on that play, they can do it. You just get away with guarding for, losing 1 heal trigger from hand, and then a total of 3 rear guards and cards in your hand. Easy. And the thing is with the Cross is that they don't retire that much anyway, so especially if they're going into this play. So you're more likely going to have rear guards on the field as well, unless they went Zambus Dragon or something, but if they went Zambus Dragon, they're not using the Cross on that turn, so it's also good for this combo. Actually, I just remembered something. There is Gilgal as well. I believe you can mess with Gilgal. Is that right? There was something I was thinking of earlier. So Gilgal's ability is Counterblast 2 and Sword Blast 1. Until end of turn, this unit battles all of your opponent's units in 1 attack and gets 10,000 power, and when it hits, countercharge 1. So it messes with Gilgal because you can basically suck up all the rear guards that you don't want it to hit into your soul. So you can take away attack targets against Gilgal, which is pretty useful. It's sort of like Slimy Flare. It's the same sort of interaction. So that's now an option. I was actually practicing with my friend Sergio, and he was just destroying me with Gilgal. He would get like the over trigger on me, restand it, and then there'd be like situations where all this guard that I'm wasting, like they would just go to waste. But with this G Guardian, you can basically stop Gilgal. You can punish your opponent for paying that cost as well, which is really cool. And then you can just use the G guard like normal and just guard against the Vanguard against your Vanguard if you wanted to. That's an option as well. So it's very handy for this sort of counter as well. So I think that's pretty much it. Very excited for these cards. But yeah, Dionysus combo sounds interesting to try out. This still makes Goddess of Sound Sleep Taro easier to release one day, because I do think this ban is really a bad idea. They should really rethink it and maybe do like a 3-way choice restriction like they do with Power Moon, whereby they pretty much just, actually if anything, they'll bring Genesis back to a level way before Fenrir, because obviously Galapnia was what made it so easy to use, and Crew is what made it so fast. So this is just like an extra precautionary hit. I think technically these two would probably be enough for people, but yeah, I mean that's if you want to like slow it down and then you just bring back all the other variations of Genesis, because I don't think this Stride is going to do enough. But at the same time, I'm not asking for a Stride to replace Taro, because I don't think the idea of Stride spamming is fun. Like I know a lot of people have complained about, they don't really like the idea of the same Stride coming out all the time. Whereas you play a deck like Grey Nature or Grand Blue, where they rely a bit more on rear guards and then they combo with their strides. So obviously this was fun for that reason as well. So hopefully they do that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else left. I might maybe talk about Gold Paladins because I do play Gold Paladins, but I've not touched it in a little while. I've been collecting Gold Paladin bits, but I've not got everything yet. So I've been going after SP cards. So I still need like Gilgal SP packs. I still need a few Aglavels, a few Parsifals in the meantime. But until then, I might be putting out more content anyway, because there are a few things that I sort of want to talk about and discuss. So until then, I will see you guys later. Goodbye.